Well, I'm not going to lie, you guys. I have a little bit of a lump in my throat. I am down the street at a friend of mine's home, and they have just put up a for sale sign. And these are some of our nearest, dearest friends. They moved in about the same time we did, but they are moving. They just put their house up for sale. But I thought I would do a little garden tour of their charming bungalow. It's absolutely delightful, and I have kind of helped with it over the years. It is very uniquely theirs. They have a wonderful sense of style and a wonderful sense of presence. They don't have any kids, but both of them are just quintessentially tasteful and modern, and so I thought I would show it to you along with a little bit of the lifestyle touches that they have. I have swum in this pool many a time. I have sat at the table many a time. So now I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can see the charm that is this house. So when you come in, you are greeted. This is a historic preservation area, so everything that's done to the house needs to be approved by the HP committee. And they really followed every recommendation to the letter. And they recently replaced these garage doors with, I love the pop of color element that they painted these garage doors. It's really wonderful, and it matches the aesthetic of their house. And then they have a fabulous weeping Yopon holly that over many moons Steve the homeowner has trained onto a mental post to give it just the vertical element that was required for the corner of this garage. This is a perfect example of training something and maximizing its natural growth form. And then there is just a simple fence, and they knew what to do instinctively. And there was a shallow area between the drive and the fence, and the perfect solution was this variegated liriope. And that is a wonderful solution, you guys. If you have an area that just won't seem to grow anything, this is a brilliant solution. And then they have several wrought iron appointments throughout their house. I want you to look and see just how neatly even their garbage cans are. There's my orange juice I brought with me. But they've got a traditional back stoop of these bungalows, and that repeats the wrought iron. And then there is a perfectly manicured wintergreen boxwood hedge off the drive. And I can remember when this was planted just from little 1-gallon boxwoods. And it just goes to show how something very simple and inexpensive can prove to really make an evergreen statement that's perfect for a certain spot. Now here, I'm getting a little sentimental here. Here is my friend Steve's ruckus, and Honda ruckus, and he and my husband both have them. And they think they're so cool, and they terrorize the neighborhood riding around on their ruckuses to go for a beer here locally. It's very cute. I'm going to get into trouble if I say more. So let me back up a little bit. There's a wonderful wrought iron gate here that sits atop a stem wall, a blonde brick stem wall that matches the facade of the house. And my dear friend John at Garden Associates, John Flewitt, helped with this design years ago. He is the most brilliant landscape architect here in Oklahoma City that I know. We're good buddies. And there have been a myriad of things. At one time, there was a wonderful rose that cascaded and grew over the arch, but over time, they wanted something that was lower maintenance and a little bit more simple and less blousy and less just evergrown. So now we're going to come back in here and I'm going to show you some different solutions to really to problems that are so common. So let me just start out by saying that they do have, these guys love their Westies, and over the past 30 years they have raised and loved a number of Westies. And because of that, that's always a consideration when you have dogs in your landscape. So let me show you what this arbor looks like on the reverse side. They still have roses here. Now remember, it's fall, and Steve has just cut them back pretty hard. Otherwise, they would be growing and kind of covering the surround of this wonderful brick arbor that is perfectly to scale. One of the things my friend John does, nobody does scale better than he does scale. And it sits atop these concrete caps, and then there's just a wonderful entryway. That's simple, it's not fussy. It is just elegant in its simplicity, with just the pop of color that comes through from the carriage garage doors. So now I'm going to give you a little span. Like mine, this is not a large backyard. Take note of the fixtures on the other, both sides of the garage doors. They're kind of carriage fixtures. The homeowners really do a lot to research what would be historically correct to the house, and those would have been the vintage of this house. It was built sometime in the 1930s. Again, this is just down the street from me. So look at these wonderful concrete pavers that they have set in gravel, and I think it may have been my idea to do the gravel because it was hard to get anything to grow in these spaces, and I believe my friend John recommended the color of this gravel to perfectly echo the color hues in the brick. And I think it just does a beautiful job. And they too like things like the subtle beauty of moss and algae growing on things, but in a little bit different flavor than my English garden. And yes, there are other dogs in the neighborhood. Something must be going on coming down the street. And then they built this pool that pretty much consumes the entirety of their backyard. But again, these aren't great. They're good gardeners, but gardening is not their passion. They're both working professionals. They're gone all the time, and they consider their home their oasis. And definitely it is that, and not only for them, but for my family, for my kids. It has just been a wonderful place for them to relax and spend time with friends. And every appointment is sheer perfection. The lawn furniture, the scale of that umbrella over the lawn furniture, the way they have this couple loves color, and they channel lots of Santa Fe and Texan vibes. They love color, and you can see that echoed in their choice of rolled up beach towels. And then over here, and I believe I helped with this, a friend of ours, an acquaintance of ours, Todd at Old World Iron, developed this panel this wrought iron panel for the west facade of their garage for roses to climb. But obviously, Steve just cut back the roses pretty hard, and it doesn't matter because it is so handsome in and of itself. And that's the beauty of good garden infrastructure. So it looks wonderful, and there are some roses waiting to climb, but those have just been tended to, and I think he may be anticipating planting some other roses. Now you can see that the attention to the garage door has been as great as the attention to, I should say this is a people door, as in attention to the garage doors out front, with the same detail on the light fixtures and the towel hooks. This is something I often help people with, and that's what I consider the jewelry on the exterior of their homes. Everything from kick plates to these brass, or these wrought iron rather, appointments, wrought iron fixtures on their doors, whether it's kick plates or address plates or entry signs. And then over here, this is such a brilliant solution of using a very inexpensive common plant for a very important purpose. They've got two hollies over here. Notice how these are limbed up. This is a Yopon holly, which does great in Oklahoma and kind of, to me, mimics the look of a live oak, and he has used them brilliantly here. Tough plants that don't shed a lot, so won't be creating a problem for debris in the pool. And then over here, there is just a Burford holly hedge, pruned again to perfection, that creates a perfect wall. And then there's an entry here into the area where the pool equipment resides, and where there is some faux grass and even an umbrella, and where they keep their firewood. Everything perfectly neat. I'm so envious of how tidy everything is. Perfectly pruned, and perfect solutions, and inexpensive solutions. Look at the way those two are juxtaposed against those two sections of the Burford holly. Kind of cantilevered or whatever against one another to prevent a solid enclosure to the pool equipment. That lovely music you hear is compliments of the outdoor speakers that they have by the pool. And then they repeated that same wrought iron detailing behind their chairs. So it feels, when you come over here, it feels like a resort. I won't even take you into their garage, which is just a thing of beauty in and of itself. And then on the corners, they have punctuated the corners with seasonal color, really tough things: asparagus fern, zinnias, some petunias, and then the beautiful, it serves a double purpose. It's both a pool and a water element. And then they repeated, if something works, repeat it. So they repeated these pruned up Yopon hollies around the perimeter. An excellent solution for those of us who live in really hot, challenging climates. I can remember pruning up with my friend Steve, pruning this maple tree that sits in a raised bed that is underplanted with ground cover. It also provides, I love things that serve a dual purpose, and this also provides a place for people to sit and squat in the shade while visiting with guests at the pool. And you'll notice that those concrete stepping stones are repeated on the opposite side. And this is just a very, very tough ground cover. This is just euonymus. It's an evergreen winter creeper euonymus, and all he does is weed eat it down. No maintenance required, or little maintenance required. And then I remember when we put in these massive, massive pots to circumscribe their outdoor dining area. Again, perfectly positioned and outlined in the same color of brick. The bigger the better. And we put some copper torchères in there, and they are filled with really hot loving plants. And then they've got this wonderful fireplace over here. This area has been infused with the scent of pinon more times than I can count. And it's a large fireplace, but not too massive for this space. It's all about scale. And then their home, where they perfectly blend contemporary with an old bungalow. They have a wonderful table here. So there are large pots that punctuate and define the areas. I have enjoyed many a glass of wine, many a dinner at this table. And then over here there is another raised bed, flanked by steps that lead up to a higher level that has an outdoor TV and an outdoor kitchen and a 3-trunked oak, red oak I believe, that is planted with the same euonymus, easy care. Over here, and I should point out the pot feet. All of these pots are raised up on massive pot feet, with those same torchères that are filled with citronella oil. Another speaker over here. Some artistic touches of some stone orbs in the back flower bed. And their wonderful built-in kitchen. And I must say, I have to say, this is going to bring a tear to my eye, but they are part of my Thanksgiving family that come every year to my home for Thanksgiving. And they typically roast their turkey out here on this outdoor kitchen. And they bring one of the turkeys. And then you see that wonderful dark burnt red trim on the windows, and that wonderful, perfectly symmetrical table that's typically filled with some stone planters filled with all sorts of succulents below the screen. And I know by now you're probably itching for me to take you inside, but I shan't do that. But notice again the wrought iron detailing and the beautiful musical notes coming from their outdoor speakers. And with the sound of this music, I will leave you with those notes and some beautiful fronds slightly waving in the breeze of some Nandina. I hope you loved this tour as much as I love the people that inhabit this house. I will miss them greatly, but I anticipate many great times in their new home. As a mutual friend of ours said, it's always like a warm hug going into their home, and I expect that will still be the case in their new place.